As Einstein said, time is relative. And he wasn't kidding, was he? I mean, especially when it comes to age. I mean, does this sound familiar? You know, you blink and suddenly it's Thursday. You blink again and it's your kid's birthday's rolling around for what, like, feels like a third time this year. What, school term again? And then Christmas already? And don't even get me started. I've already heard the first Christmas songs of the year. Ugh. I mean, it just feels like we've just packed away the decorations and now they're back already in the shops. An old cliche, I know, but it's a strange feeling, isn't it? The sense that someone has secretly hit the fast forward button on the remote for your life. You know, you often hear people in their 50s and onwards talking about this. Oh, it comes around so much faster each year, I swear. You know, but it's real. It's a shared experience that the years just seem to gather speed as you get older. When I was a teenager, I always remember my mum telling me, son, when you hit 40, she never spoke like that. She said, son, when you hit 40, time will literally shoot past. And I was like, yeah, okay, mum, time is time, right? Yeah. I mean, perhaps stop drinking. She's never drunk. But when I hit my 40s and onwards, God damn it, she was blooming right, wasn't she? It felt like a runaway train each year, sort of speeding up. Like someone hit that fast forward on my remote for my life, as I said. But what if I told you there's a way to get your hands back on that remote control? And I'm not talking about some sort of Doctor Strange mystical magic. I'm talking about a genuine science-backed way to change your perception of time, to actually make it feel like time is slowing down. And the secret? The superpower that unlocks this, for a growing number of Gen Xers, people in their 50s and onwards, it's making one of the biggest decisions of their lives. Maybe retiring a little earlier than planned. Now stick with me because this is fascinating stuff and there's real science behind it. You know, of course there is. There always is with these videos, you know. And even I have begun to feel like time is slowing down a bit because of the decisions I've made. So first off, you are not imagining it, right? That feeling of time sort of slipping away faster and faster. It is real, you know, it is a documented psychological phenomenon. There's real science behind all of this. And the most accepted reason why is actually pretty simple. It all comes down to the idea of novelty. Think back to when you were a kid, you know, the summer holidays, they felt like an eternity, didn't they? Those 6 weeks seemed to feel like, I don't know, 6 months of long summers. I remember it well. And, you know, okay, I maybe have rose-tinted glasses to it all. But the reason it felt like that is because almost everything was new, you know, new faces, new places, new skills, new scraped knees, new bike adventures, all of that, like some sort of Spielberg kids movie. Your brain was processing and storing massive amounts of new information. Each one of those new experiences acted like an anchor, a memory marker that made time feel dense and full. Lots of little markers close together. Now fast forward to your 30s, 40s, 50s. Life becomes, well, a routine, you know, clockwork, repetitive, tick, tick, tick. The daily commute, the weekly meetings, the kind of repetitive work. We work for decades to build that stability into our lives. I mean, that's what we're striving for, right? But in doing so, we create what some psychologists call a routine trap. Our brain, being the efficient machine that it is, suddenly just goes onto autopilot. It doesn't need to process as much information because it knows what it's doing without even thinking about it. So it creates fewer of those memory markers. These periods, when recalled later, are kind of compressed in our memory, creating the sensation that time has passed quickly. There's larger gaps between these memory markers, so everything's compressed. When we look back, those routine-filled weeks, months, and even years just blur together into one compressed file in our brains. And when you have kids, I think it's even worse. It's, school term, Xmas, spring term, summer term, holiday, birthday, Christmas, repeat. And the bits in between all of that, is just filled with repetitive work routines. So it's blurring everything even more. And that's the sensation of time flying by. Some days I used to wake up and think, what, Christmas already? Again? I haven't finished paying for last Christmas. This dynamic creates a powerful psychological undercurrent in mid-career especially. The very stability and efficiency that individuals have worked to achieve for years, a specialised career, a settled family life, a predictable schedule, to help run the household more efficiently, it all inadvertently constructs a routine trap, a feedback loop where the more structured and optimised life becomes, the faster it feels when we look back. Basically, routine is the accelerator pedal for the perceived time. And therefore, the decision to retire early from this perspective isn't just about escaping work. It's much, much more. It's a profound, visceral urge to kind of basically escape the blur of speeded up time. It's a conscious decision to stop the years from just blending into one another. It's a declaration that the most valuable thing you own isn't your portfolio or your pension fund or your house, but the remaining days on your calendar. All of this leads to a massive tipping point for so many of us, especially when we sort of hit our 50s, I'd say, when we're coasting in our jobs. We can do it in our sleep. I've talked about this before in my own job. I could do it in my sleep, and therein is part of the problem. Career progression seems sort of stunted. We start to question maybe, what's the point of it all? And we look at life slightly differently than we did when we were, chasing a career. We're no longer focused on accumulating wealth for some distant, far-off future. We're more interested in curating our time for the here and the now, because we realise here and now is important. The prize we're chasing is something called time affluence. I love that phrase. It's the ultimate luxury, isn't it? Having a wealth of your own hours to spend how you see fit, based on your values, not your boss's deadlines. For me, the idea of another 10 to 15 years in that high-pressure corporate world, not that it was that high pressure, but anyway, the point is it was a corporate world. Well, ultimately, another 10 or 15 years, it just felt like a bad trade. The emotional return on investment of a free afternoon to go for a long walk like this, or spend time with your family, or work on a project like, I actually care about, like, I don't know, making YouTube videos. Well, it started to far outweigh the financial return of investment of another day in the office. And let's be honest, the modern day hustle culture just throws fuel on that fire. Check out my video here about hustle culture and the issues with that. The constant pressure to be on, to be productive, to answer emails at 10 p.m, it's just exhausting. For many, stepping away isn't giving up. It's a genuine act of self-preservation. It's choosing your own well-being. Our perception of time is a psychological experience at the end of the day, and it's actually linked to neurobiology, particularly dopamine. This neurotransmitter, active in youth due to so much novelty, like, being in a fruit machine parlour with all the noises and buzzes and bells, this diminishes as we age and our lives become more routine, more robotic, potentially altering our internal biological stopwatch. Professor Adrian Bejan suggests that the way we process stuff in our brains changes over time. As we get older, our brain's neural networks get bigger and more complicated. That means the electrical signals for our thoughts and perceptions have to travel further and through more intricate paths. Basically, our brain slows down how fast it processes information. Like they say, computers slow down over time as more and more background junk just fills up the processor. Think of it like this. Your brain captures fewer mental frames per second when you're an adult compared to when you're a kid, yeah? I'm on like 30 frames per second. My kid's on 240 frames per second. And just like a video played at a lower frame rate, our sense of time speeds up because we're not noticing as many distinct moments in the same amount of actual time. It'll also probably account for the reason my son wipes the floor with me at first-person shooters. I knew there was some science behind it. As Professor Bejan puts it, people are often amazed at how much they remember from days that seem to last forever in their youth. It's not that their experiences were much deeper or more meaningful. It's just that they were being processed in rapid fire, at a faster frames per second rate. There's more detail in there. Science tells us something pretty cool about time. Even though time marches at its own pace, how we experience it isn't set in stone. That feeling of time whizzing by isn't just something that happens to us. It's often a result of our lives becoming less new and more routine. So therefore, in midlife, as time seems to fly by, something deeper happens. As I said, it's not just that things feel faster, but we start to feel there's less time ahead as well. The future, which once seemed endless and miles away, suddenly starts to feel a lot closer. This realization that our time is limited sparks a big and predictable change in what motivates us, what we aim for in life, and how we live our social lives. So it's not a midlife crisis at all. It's an actual biological process. Yay! This whole process is neatly explained by a really important theory in psychology. It's called socio-emotional selectivity theory, SST. And SST looks at two main types of goals that drive what we do in life. First, you have sort of knowledge-related goals. And these are all about the future. Think like learning new stuff, trying out new things, expanding our horizons, investing in activities like your career or building a big social network, sucking up to your bosses, that will pay off down the line somewhere in the future. When you feel like you have plenty of time, it makes sense to focus on these goals, investing in the future and get ready for what's, ahead. Next is emotional related goals. And these are about the right now, the moment. They're about feeling good, about finding meaning, making your close relationships stronger, and really enjoying the present moment. When time feels limited, it's smarter to prioritize these goals because you get the benefits immediately and they directly boost your well-being. So for many, though, hitting your 50s is a big moment. It's when the idea of a limited future stops being a passing thought in your brain and becomes a constant low-level awareness, like a background hum. And of course, this internal shift often clashes with the demands of a mid-career professional life. The corporate world, for example, usually focuses in all those future goals. Long-term plans, quarterly targets, networking, climbing the greasy pole. But now you're in your 50s, your priorities have shifted towards finding present moment emotional meaning now. So suddenly you feel out of sync with your work environment. It doesn't make sense. That daily grind, the long-term objectives might not resonate with what you truly care about anymore. Those appraisal meetings. Where do you see your career in 10 years' time? Like, I'm in my 50s. I don't really see my career going much further than here. I now kind of understand how I felt at work when it just wasn't vibing with me anymore. And I wasn't sure why. But now it all kind of makes sense. And ultimately, it's what led me to early retirement. This growing gap between, what you feel inside and what you experience outside is a powerful, often unspoken reason why lots of people start considering, early retirement or start questioning their life choices in their 50s. Deciding to leave a career can actually be a really healthy way to bring your life back in line with this new, authentic sort of self, this new inner state. It's less about quitting a job and more about getting your life in order. When contemplating an early exit from the workforce, the ultimate prize is not idleness, but this time affluence. As I mentioned before, the profound luxury of having control over one's own schedule, of possessing a wealth of discretionary hours to be allocated according to personal values rather than external demands. It stands in stark contrast to the time-constrained or time-poor reality of our modern professional life, a state of chronic busyness, or appearing to look busy at least, and, competing obligations that leave little room for spontaneous joy or deep reflection. So deciding to retire early turns out is a pretty smart and logical move if you can do it. It's a rational decision. You're essentially swapping the chance to make more money later for the guarantee of more time right now. And now I fully kind of understand what I was thinking when I grappled with the equation of, time less money kind of equation in a video I did last year before I finally made the decision to retire. It all seems to fit in with this idea of the socio-emotional selectivity theory, the SST. I'd begun the process of shifting my focus from future resource-building goals to present emotionally satisfying ones as I was getting older. When your main goal isn't just to save for a distant future, but to feel meaning and connection now, continuing to trade your precious limited time for a little bit more cash, it just starts to feel like a bit of a bad idea. The emotional payoff of an afternoon spent with a grandchild, I guess, or doing something you love, or going for a walk like this, soon starts to beat that financial return of another day at the office for some time in the future. Okay, Clive, that's great. We love all the research, of course, but please tell us about this superpower. How do we actually bend time, Dr. Strange? Well, this is the kind of cool part. This is how you use your superpower. If routine is what speeds time up, then breaking that routine is what slows it down. Early retirement is the ultimate pattern interrupt. It yanks you out of that autopilot mode that you have with work, like the proletariat in Fritz Lang's Metropolis, Automons on the daily commute. Think about it. The last week-long holiday you had that took you somewhere new. When you were in it, yeah, the hours might have flown by because you're having so much fun. Time flies when you're having fun and all of that. But when you look back, that 1 week feels so much longer and more substantial than a whole boring month in the office, right? That's because your brain was flooded with novelty and it created a ton of those rich memory markers I talked about earlier. So it flows, right? Early retirement gives you the freedom to turn your life into a series of those memorable weeks. It's a calculated choice, yeah, to build a more expansive and meaningful personal history. So how do you do it? How do you wield this superpower? Well, first, I think you have to actively seek novelty. This doesn't just mean, you have to go backpacking across Asia, although, you can if you want. It works on a much smaller scale too. As I said before, learn a language, like I'm desperately trying to learn Japanese, learn an instrument, go back to study history because you always wanted to do it, whatever it is. Take a different route to the supermarket. Hey, crazy, I know, but why not even try a different supermarket? Join a club, volunteer for something, new. Each new experience forces the brain to wake up and to start recording again, in high definition, stretching your perception of time. Second, practice mindfulness. I don't mean going to a yoga retreat for 10 days, and I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but the science holds this up, by simply paying deliberate attention to your day-to-day experiences, really tasting that morning coffee, yeah, feeling the sun on your skin. No sun today, but I'm feeling the day. Truly listening in a conversation. You extract more information from familiar events. It's like just basically teaching yourself to see the world again with the vividness of a child. Rather than just being on automatic, you actually experience that moment. And thirdly, you should build a new routine. Now, I know, I just spent the last few minutes telling you to escape routine, but this is slightly different. I've talked about it before about building a loose scaffold. The problem with the work routine is that it was like rigid and monotonous, and it was like a cage. It was too tight. The key in retirement is to build a flexible framework and an adaptable and changing routine that can flex with you, a structure that serves you and not the other way round. Have a consistent anchor to your morning, for instance. Schedule time for your health, for seeking friends, and just, block out time for your purpose, whatever you decide that is in life. This loose scaffolding, as I've explored before, gives your freedom shape. So you don't fall into the trap of waking up and thinking, now what? A little bit of routine, but not too much. This feeling that time is accelerating as we get into our 50s and beyond, yeah, look, it can be a source of real anxiety. I get that. Like I said, feels sometimes like you're on a runaway train. But what if we reframe it? What if it's not a curse, but an actual invitation, a wise, timely call to action from our own minds, telling us to stop living on autopilot a reminder to live more intentionally, and to stop collecting for the future and start spending our time on the things that create meaning and joy today, right now. The ultimate freedom of retiring early isn't the freedom from work. As I've said in other videos, it's the freedom to consciously design a life that feels rich, full of that novelty of our youth, a key ingredient. And yes, even a little bit slower. And I know what you're thinking. Have I felt time slow down since I retired? Well, to be frank with you, yes. And it dawned on me when I was making this video. It's my birthday this month, and I wanted to start this video with something like, oh, it only felt like yesterday since it was my birthday. But if the truth be owned, that's not been the case. This year does not feel like it's flown by like previous years. For the first time in a long, long time, especially when I look back. Why? Because I shook up my life, yeah? I left my job. I left my career. I filled my life, I filled my life with novelty. I lived more in the moment, and I broke free of the stale routine of work. It's full of fresh memory markers now. So yes, now I think about it, you can slow down the perception of time. And it ain't E equals MC squared. It's much simpler than that. So there you go. I'd love to know what you think. Have you felt that acceleration of time as you got older? And more importantly, what's one new thing you've done recently to shake up that routine? Let's share some of the ideas, put it in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, do me the great honor, please. Can you hit the likes? Because I like it, YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content just like this. And if you're new to my channel, or one of the 83% of people who watch my videos on a regular basis and haven't yet subscribed, you can do that now. Hit that subscribe button, toggle that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I go live with videos just like this. And talking videos just like this, why don't you check out the videos right here? See these ones here? Check them out. I think you'll enjoy them. Thanks for watching.